Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us here for episode 2 of this SD Times Live micro webinar series with value stream management company ConnectALL. I'm your host, Diamond Dave Rubinstein, editor-in-chief of SD Times, and we'll take a deeper look today into value stream automation patterns. Joining me again is our good friend Lance Knight, president and CEO of ConnectALL. Thanks for being here, Lance.
Hey, thanks, Diamond. How are you?
I'm doing okay, and thanks for the new moniker. Appreciate it. So anyway, in episode 1 of the series, we introduced the idea of pattern thinking. And today we're going to delve into how you can optimize your processes by identifying patterns in your workflows and creating automations around them. There's a number of areas in which automation patterns can be useful. So Lance, let's start today by explaining how organizations can identify these patterns and how that can be used to create these patterns to accelerate agile development and accelerate software delivery.
So yeah, I got a couple slides, and then I promise it won't take as long as last time.
Okay.
I want to lay out a little bit more of a definition of this terminology we're using at ConnectALL called value stream noise.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's important to understand how it affects your organization. And then when you're looking at your value stream, you're looking to solve things like patterns and pattern thinking. You're looking to actually reduce the noise a little bit. And then I'll talk about some of the 5 patterns that are in here, right? So one of the things that we say at ConnectALL all the time, Dave, and you've probably heard us say this, that it's very chaotic and it's unpredictable, software development delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And what drives that is actually the nature of the way that you're developing software and the level of collaboration and communication and all those things that you have to do just to plan the work you're going to do. It's not the programming, but it's all the other things you're putting together to decide what to program. And it's like things like over communication, too many meetings, how many emails, you're in and out of systems, context switching. All of this is happening on a daily basis. You know, when you're thinking about just changing the color of a button, how many meetings do you have to do that? And how many emails get created and how much collaboration happens just to make a small change. All of that you kind of look at as value stream noise. And the interesting part is a lot of it is necessary, but a lot of it is over processing to ensure that you're just managing that small bit of code through the system. And noise usually is around these artifacts, right? These are the artifacts you use in software development delivery, and everybody, there's more and so on, you know, like epic stories, user stories, requirements, requests, features, code commits. These are the things that you're using to manage the work. It's not the work. These are the things that you're using to manage the work. The work is changing the code, committing it, and getting it put in production. All the rest is just managing all of that. These are just artifacts to say this is a problem, that's an issue, and so on. So it's really interesting when you look at that. Most of the work today in software development and delivery is managing the work that you're going to want to do. Interesting, yep. Right? So what's the value added work is getting in there and then, actually editing the code and putting that into the product.
Right.
But look at all this overhead of doing that. And it's generated over time because you want to make sure you're building the right stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a value stream here that I've talked about before. But once you start to load this up with user stories, epic stories, defects, bugs, all those things, it starts to break down as you start to have more and more value stream, and collaboration has to happen all through this. And you're generating how many emails, how many discussions, how many meetings just for one small code change. That's what I mean when I say value stream noise.
Mm-hmm. But it's critical noise. I mean, you can't advance code without doing these things.
Some of it is true, but what you have to do is figure out how can I turn some of that noise down?
Right.
And you can do that through automation and efficiencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at this chart. You look at all of this, right? This turns into those. All of this, and it's even more noisy. Now imagine putting on multiple value streams and the noise between the two of those. So it's really fascinating when you start to think about the complexity, the emails, the calls, the meetings, the feedback loops, manual processes, handoffs. It's all over production work. And you want to be able to look at that and then figure out, how can I automate some of that so that I can be more effective? And this whole process is actually impeding one thing: flow and being effective. And the analogy I use is, at ConnectALL, I'll do some programming. And when I code, there's like very little noise because, as the head of the company, I'm not asking for feedback. I'm not looking for requirements. I'm just going in with a vision and doing it. Right. But once you expand past one person, now you start to have that collaboration, and 10 people and 20 people, huge organization. And then what am I doing as an organization? I'm hiring more people just to manage this noise, just to manage the requirements, just to manage the products. I'm not hiring more programmers. I'm hiring more people to manage this, just to manage changing some code. Now, it's necessary, don't get me wrong, but how do I reduce that, become more streamlined, look for ways to be more efficient? This is where I like metrics like flow efficiency, right? It shows how many defects, requirements, where are they coming from, how many meetings you're having. So, but then when you start to look into this, then we start to get into value stream management patterns, where we can look at patterns, the way we're doing things. And when I say about patterns, they don't necessarily have to be around tool integration or tool automation. They could be in tool automation, and you can see how you can reduce that noise using value stream mapping and value stream automation type of stuff. So these are some of the top patterns we see for Agile and the developer. For example, defect unification. I mean, that's where you've got different tools, and the more tools you have, too, the more that noise has possibility as well. Right? Because those tools aren't like a single source communicating. You're saying you'll have to be like, defect unification is a favorite one I like to talk about, because you're developing, TBD, and you're working together, and the coder and the tester are working together. So the tester gets your acceptance test, puts it in their system, but they don't have the user stories. So they got to send an email. What is this really about? Right? So you starting amplifying that noise by not either working in one tool where defects and requirements are together, or automating the flow between them through integrating the tools.
So are these templated patterns, or are these going to be different from organization to organization?
Mostly these organizations have these specific patterns, like requirements traceability, right? The Shangri-La of having a full traceability is unusual to have because of tool disparity.
Right.
Well, if you synchronize those or work in one tool, now you can get full traceability, right? Or you automate the flow between the two. So those are just some of those things that you look at. Release planning, that's connecting releases and making sure that all that's connected together. Right. At the top level, your planning solutions like Clarity and the other tool there that competes with them, PlanView, they need to connect with your Agile planning tool. Otherwise, there's email noise and copying and all these things happening that is slowing down and impeding your flow. So if you go look at your value stream, you can see these patterns in here, and you can see that if they're noisy or not.
Right.
And then you can say, okay, I need to solve that defect unification pattern or that code pattern or whatever. It's all about looking at the value stream in a different way too. If you look at most companies, they show the value stream in this very linear flow: plan, build, run, deploy, right? It is not like that at all, right? But that's how they're showing it. So here's just some of those patterns. I'm going to stop sharing here, and I think I did well keeping that in time. Did I?
Yes, very impressive. Very impressive.
Very impressive staying on time and doing so.
That's exactly right. All right. So Lance, once again, thanks as always for being with us. Folks, you can hear Lance talking more about noise in the value stream and these patterns as he keynotes the upcoming virtual VSM Con on June the 7th, starting at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, to hear more from Lance on that topic. I'd certainly like to thank Lance and ConnectALL for sponsoring this important micro-webinar series on value stream management. And of course, thanks to all of you who chose to spend a couple of minutes with us here this afternoon. So until next time, I'm Dave Rubinstein, renamed Diamond Dave Rubinstein, Editor-in-Chief of ST Times, and so long for now.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Lance.